Om Badram Karnebihi Shruniyama Devaha Badram Pashyema Akshabihi Ryajatraha Sthirairangayir Tushtuvam Sastanubihi Vashema Devahitan Yadayuhu Swastinaha Indro Vridrashravaha Swastinaha Pusha Vishwavedaha Swastinaha Tarksho Arishtanemihi Swastino Bruhaspatir Dadatu Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi यो अन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाच इमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयति अखिलशक्तिधरस्वदाम्ना अन्यांष्टहस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं लसतु श्रीमदानन्दतीर्थेन्दुर्नो हृदम्बरे यद्वचश्चन्द्रिका स्वान्तसन्तापं विनिकृन्तति पदवाक्यप्रमाणज्ञान प्रणम्य शिरसा गुरून् व्याकरिष्ये यथाभूतं विष्णुतत्त्वविनिर्णयम्. So thank you for joining. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to friends who've joined for the 31st session of Mundaka Upanishad. So we are in the second kanda of the second Mundaka, and we have done the first verse. Avihi sannihitam guhacharam nama mahatpadam atra etat sarvam arpitam येजत प्राणत निमिषत च यद एतद जानता सदसद्वरेण्यं परम विज्ञानाद यद वरिष्ठम प्रजानानाम. So a few tongue twisters there, but we have looked at the philosophy of this in great detail. Yeah. So what is this that we are dealing with here? If you remember the first kanda was talking about all the greatness of Paramatma. It talks about this creatorship of Brahman. Yeah, so that is the first kanda of this Mundaka is all about the creatorship of Paramatma. And then Angirasa finishes off in that particular kanda saying that that person who creates the whole universe is actually very close to you and inside you. Okay? And he controls your pindana and all your activities. So when he kind of finishes off that particular verse in the previous kanda, Angirasa picks this up here and then starts describing as to why this Paramatma is an Antaryamin. Why is he inside all the jivas? And that is what the first verse was all about, isn't it? So, Avihi sannihitam guhacharam nama mahatpadam atra etat samarpitam येजत प्राणत निमिषत च एतद् जानता सदसद्वरेण्यं परम विज्ञानात् वरिष्ठं प्रजानानाम. So various ideas in this verse. So what does it say? He is very close to you. He is very inside you, very much inside you, very close to you as your Antaryami. Okay, doing various activities. And this guy as an Antaryamin is very well known in scriptures. Yeah, so that is a foundational aspects of Vedantic philosophy is this concept of Antaryamin as described in Antaryami Brahmana of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So he is very well known in the scriptures. Yeah, he is inside us as our Antaryamin so that he can show himself to us. He is ever manifest, okay? He is always available at our disposal, but it is us who are not making the effort to actually see him. So that is the approach of Angirasa here, saying that Avihi, that is what that very first word is. Avihi is ever manifest. And why is he ever manifest as your Antaryamin? Because he is waiting for us so that we jivas, instead of facing outwards, at some point we will make an effort to face inwards and start, making our inward journey and eventually see him. And he is available to us all the time. He is always there. Okay? And he is the great goal. Yeah. And everything has taken shelter under him. What is that everything? Yejat, pranat, nimishat, cha. Okay, so everything, the living things and the non-living things, everything has taken shelter under him is of course a very key aspect. It's a key philosophy of Angirasa as well as the Vedic philosophy. Okay. Then he says this guy is Sadasad Varenyam, and there we saw the various meanings of Sat and Asat. Sat doesn't mean existence and Asat means non-existence. Sat and Asat has got so many connotations. One simple one is Sat is the ones that are manifested are called Sat. So if you take the Panchabhutas, the ones that are manifest, that is the ones that we can actually see them, are what? Fire, water and earth. Whereas space and air we cannot see. So they are called Asat. So when Angirasa says Sadasad Varenyam, what it means is that he is beyond matter. So that is a key idea there. He is beyond matter. And he is not only beyond matter, he is param vijnanad yad varishtam prajananam. So that is what this particular philosophy, this particular verse is telling us here, that this guy, this Paramatma is higher than the highest among jivas. So Chaturmukha Brahma is the highest among, so Chaturmukha Brahma is the highest among jivas. Yeah. And jivas are what? Infinite. Yeah. So Prajananam Varishtam is Chaturmukha, and our Paramatma is even bigger than them. Param Vijnanat Yad Varishtam Prajananam. So the words are very, very clear. So again, you would understand that the philosophy boils down to the same, core philosophy of Vedic philosophy. And Angirasa is constantly reminding us. Avrittihi Asakritu Upadeshat, says Brahma Sutra. Every opportunity we have to revise and revise and revise and revise again and again. Okay? And that is what Angirasa is reminding us. Etat janata. Etat, watch that word very carefully. When it says etat janata, etat means that which is very close to you. Janata, know him. That which is very close to you as your antaryamin, know that Paramatma, is what Angirasa is teaching Shuanaka. So how is that Paramatma? If you want to know him, there is a philosophy. How do you know him? It's a struggle, isn't it? It's a lot of effort. It's a struggle to know him. Yeah. And that struggle and it's almost like a yuddha, a battle. That struggle to know him is what is being described in the next few verses, in some of the most amazing verses of this particular Upanishad. So this is a new verse for us today. So who is this Paramatma? Who is your Antaryamin, whom Angirasa has said, Etat Janata, and that how we have to have almost a yuddha, a dhyana yuddha to know him. How is he? Yad Archimat, Yad Anubhyo Anuhu, Cha, Yasmin Lokaha Nihitaha Lokinascha, Tadetad Aksharam Brahma, Sapranaha, Tadu Vang Manaha, Tadetat Satyam, Tad Amrutam, Tad Vedavyam Somya Vidhi. Okay, so beautiful verse, beautiful, beautiful verse. So it says, Yad Archimat. So this guy is Archi. Archi means what we have done Archi before, isn't it? And the first kanda of this Mundaka was all about Archi. Archi is the fire. How do you contemplate this Brahman in fire is what we have read in the first kanda. And Angirasa mentions Yed Archimat. He is fire. Fire, the metaphor fire is used again and again in Vedic philosophy, not because that Brahman is that material fire. No, that fire has got metaphorical meaning, isn't it? It can imply pure, it can imply light. Light is knowledge. And of course, our Srimad Acharya in his Agni Sukta of Rigveda Bhashya, he actually gives the etymology of Agni itself. Okay? So this Paramatma is Archim, Yad Archimat, and it's very contextually relevant to remind Shuanaka, because as you know, Shuanaka is a big Yajnashala. He's a Mahashalaka. He's doing fire sacrifices all the time. So he reminds him he is Archimat. Okay. Yad Anubhyo Anuhu. Okay, so this is interesting. So when you remember these words, so Yad Anubhyo Anuhu, Yasmin Lokaha Nihitaha Lokinashta. So remember these three, they got an ulterior motive behind this as to why Angirasa is doing this. So first he is looking at fire and he says, this guy is like fire. Yeah. But he is also Yad Anubhyo Anuhu. He's subtler than the subtle. Yeah. Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan, as we have done it in Katha Upanishads. Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan. So here our Angirasa says, Yed Anubhyo Anuhu Cha Yasmin Lokaha Nihitaha Lokinashcha. So everything in the world he supports and also the people living in it. And he's pervading this world, that he is also beyond this. Mahato Mahiyan. Okay. So why is he using these three lines here? For deeper contemplation, if you think about it, previously I said Eta Jnanata is what our Angirasa is telling Shuanaka. Know him. Know him as your Antaryami. This is an effort. This is a struggle. This is a yuddha. This is a dhyana yuddha that you are having with Paramatma. So if this is a dhyana yuddha, you're taking, let us say, a bow and an arrow, and you're taking a bow and an arrow and you're hitting this target. So here Angirasa is saying, can you hit this target to a fire? What is going to happen to an arrow? It is not going to have any effect on Madhyama Parinama, as it's called, an Agni. If you throw an arrow onto a fire, that nothing is going to happen to it. The fire is not going to be affected by it. Anubhyo anuhu, something is subtler than the subtlest. How can an arrow you can take and fire at it? How can you even do that struggle with something that is smaller than the smallest? Or something that is bigger than the biggest. How are you going to take your arrow and have this dhyana yuddha with this entity which is bigger than the biggest? So you have the subtler than the subtlest, the bigger than the biggest, and the one that is middle, neither subtle nor big, something in the middle called Archi. Okay? So that is another idea there. And I think that becomes interesting. You will find that out very soon when we hit the next verse, that you will understand why Angirasa is introducing these ideas, that this Antaryaman yad archimat anubhyo anuhu cha yasmin lokaha nihitaha lokinascha. Okay? And then he reminds, as you know, the Paramatma, the Devata for this Upanishad is what? Akshara Namaka Paramatma. The Gurus are what? We start off from Hayagriva Namaka Paramatma, Chaturmukha Brahma, then we go to Angira, then Satyavaha, then you have Angiras, then you have Shaunaka, then all the Acharyas. Yeah. So you have all that. And here Angirasa is teaching Shaunaka, and the Shaunaka then subsequently teaches to everybody else. But the Devata about whom Angirasa is teaching is called Akshara. So here again, Angirasa is using a different set of words here to convey similar ideas to us. Tadetad Aksharam Brahma, Sa Pranaha, Tadu Vang Manaha, Tadetad Satyam, Tad Amrutam, Tad Vedhavyam Somya Vidhi. So he says, this Antaryamin who is inside you, who is he? Tat Yetat Aksharam Brahma. Okay, so think about these words again. We should never, waste the opportunity to contemplate on certain important words. So I'm going to just quickly pause here. He has used tat and yetat. So who is going to tell us what is tat, what is etat? Who is going to give us their ideas on that? So tat there means what? Tat, tataha, that which is all pervasive. Yasmin lokaha nihitaha lokinashcha. Yetat, that which is very close to you. Yad anubhyo anuhu. Yeah, so that which is very close to you is Ases, that which is all pervasive is Tataha. Antarbahishta tat sarvam vyapya narayana stitaha. Never forget that word. Antarbahishta. Tat, outside, etat, inside. Yeah. So tad etad, that entity that is everywhere, all pervasive and also inside you as your Antaryami is Aksharam. Yeah. So I'm going to break here, have a think about it, because we're going to have a discussion about a revision about who this Akshara is again, because there's a lot of Avritti coming here for our contemplation. Let me, so what does it say? Tadetad Aksharam Brahma. That Antaryamin is Tadetad Aksharam Brahma. So a review of Aksharam. So your Mundaka Upanishad is full of Aksharam. There is Akshara everywhere. Tatra apara Rigvedo, Yajurvedaha, Samavedo, Atharva Vedaha, Siksha, Kalpo, Vyakaranam, Niruktam, Chando, Jyotishamiti, Ata para Yaya, Tad Aksharam Adigamyate. Very first. That's body of scriptures that tell us about this Akshara is Agama. Yata urnanabihi sujate gushlate cha yata prithivya moshadayaha sambhavati yata sataha purushat keshalo mani tata aksharat sambhavati iha vishwam. This whole creation of the universe happens because of this akshara. Tasmai savidwan upasannaya samyak prashanta chittaya shamanvitaya yena aksharam purusham veda satyam provacha tam tattvato brahma vidyam. Again Angirasa using yena aksharam purusham Yata sudiptat pavakat vishvulingaha sahasrashaha prabhavante sarupaha tata aksharat vividaha somya bhavaha prajayante tatra cha eva apiyanti. Aksharat Divyo hi amurtaha purushaha sa bahyabhya antaro hi ajaha aprano hi amanaha shubro hi aksharat paratah paraha. So many areas. Angirasa's favorite verse in Mundaka Upanishad is Akshara. Okay. So some folks think Akshara means a letter. Yeah, in this Upanishad, 100% not. Akshara can be can be a letter in extremely superficial sense, but the word Akshara, as used by Angirasa, has got a deeper, profound meaning. He is actually talking about Aksharamaka Paramatma, not a syllable, not a letter. Okay, let's not make that let's not make that mistake. So Akshara means an entity. An entity is what Angirasa is celebrating here. So I'm going to break just for a minute, asking us and requesting us to think about and ruminate on this word Akshara. So what is the meaning of Akshara? What have we understood by the word Akshara as we have not navigated this Upanishad for over several months? Pragneshji.
Literal meaning is non-perishable, but the deeper meaning is Akshar Namak Paramatma, the Narayana, the Lord Vishnu, the Supreme. Thank you.
Thank you, Pragneshji.
And we can refer to, as you have always referred to, the 15th chapter, verse 16.
Brilliant. Thank you, Pragneshji. Anybody else wants to share their thoughts here, please?
Mahalakshmi also, and he's also fulfills all our wishes. Laksharam is also indestructible.
Very good, Pratibhaji. Lakshmi, an idea of Lakshmi, Kutasto Akshara that you mentioned, and then somebody who fulfills all her desires is also Akshara. Wonderful. Thank you, Pratibhaji. New ideas. Anybody else?
Madhuji,
Suresh, go for it, and then Padmajaji. Yeah.
Akshara, I mean, to Kshar, the one, so Sarva Shabd, every syllable talks about him. Or about Aksha plus Ra, the one who, in the Indriyas, the one who controls all the Indriyas and who provides. So that will be Aksha plus Kshara. We have talked about it just now that it is imperishable.
Fantastic, Sureshji. Thank you very much. Padmajaji? Or was it Nita Sushrut? Nita Sushrut, yeah.
Yeah. Also, all pervasive, Ashnute iti Aksharam, and plus Ksha plus Ra, celebrated in the Vedas.
Yeah, fantastic. Anybody else? Anything else? I think most of us have captured all ideas. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that contribution. So here
Madhuji, it is no Nasha Rahita Akshara.
Nasha Rahita Akshara. Thank you very much, Padmajadi. Wonderful. So yes, so we all of us got all the ideas absolutely right. So here is a quick run-through slide that gives you a comprehensive review of Akshara that I've taken from all our gurus, what they have taught us, and also from this Upanishad and elsewhere to just summarize what is this Akshara is, and it's important. Yeah. So in Mundaka Upanishad, that is a key theme, and we should never ever forget this. So there are two ways, isn't it? Whenever you have a word, you look at it, what is the Rudi word? What is the Rudi meaning of it? What is the Yaugika meaning? Rudi means conventional meaning, and Yaugika means etymological. So when you look at the conventional sense, as Pragneshji and Sureshji and others shared, Naksharati, imperishable. Yeah, imperishable is Akshara. So in that sense, all the Varanas that you have, the sounds of the universe are imperishable. Om is an Akshara. Bijakshara mantra, as it's called. It's a sound that is imperishable. Now, Mula Prakriti or primordial matter is also called Akshara, because it is imperishable. It comes and goes in every creation. Data yata purvam akalpayate. The Paramatma uses Mula Prakriti, bring forth creation. Then Pralaya, then use the same Mula Prakriti, brings forth the creation. So the Mula Prakriti, that is the Mula Jada Prakriti, the primordial matter is also called Akshara. Then of course the Abhimani Devata of Mula Prakriti is Lakshmi or Chetana Prakriti. She is called Kutasto Akshara, as Pragneshji reminded us in Gita 15 chapter. So she is also called Akshara. But in the highest sense, Vishnu is called Akshara, and he is the Devata of Mundaka Upanishad. So if you look at etymological sense, and again, all of us here in Satsang capture these ideas. If you look at etymological sense, the second approach to it, Ashnute iti Aksharam, all pervasive or omnipresent. So you can be what? You can be omnipresent in space, time, and gunas, right? Omnipresence means you should always think about three: time, space, and gunas. If you think about Avyakrita Akasha, or the space, the space where even the primordial matter exists. So this is the higher levels of philosophy. Our Acharya has taught us that there are two types of aksharas. There are two types of akashas. Yeah. There is the Bhuta Akasha, which is one of the Pancha, you know, it's one of the Pancha, it's a Bhuta Akasha is one of the, Pancha Bhutas, right? Akasha. Yeah. Whereas for the Mula Prakriti to be there, you need a space. That is called Avyakrita Akasha. Yeah. That is the space that Acharya is talking about when he talks about Akshara. Yeah. So that space is also all pervasive. And then, of course, the Abhimani of that Avyakrita Akasha is Lakshmi, Chetana Prakriti. She is what? She is all pervasive in space as well as in time. Okay. That is why she is called Samana. Samana is the name of Lakshmi, we have said, as described in Brahma Sutra, right? Samana, Chasru Shukta Amrutatvam Cha Anuposhya. Check those sutras out. But in the highest sense, Veda Vyasa resolves this in Brahma Sutra. Aksharam ambaranta dritehe. That Vishnu is all pervasive in what? Space, time, and also gunas. Lakshmi is all pervasive in space and time, but the only factors that makes us slightly less than Vishnu in the Vedic pantheon is she is not all pervasive in all gunas, number one. Number two, she is a dependent entity on Vishnu. And number three, she still does not know all the infinite auspicious attributes of Vishnu. Okay, so those are all the three aspects where Lakshmi is placed second in the Vedic pantheon, but she is Samana in all other aspects. Okay. So they are all Ashnute iti Aksharam. Jivas are only all pervasive in time. We are ever existing. So we are all pervasive in time only, but not in space or in gunas. Yeah. So Vishnu in the highest sense, Ashnute iti Aksharam goes only to Vishnu. Then, of course, we had Akshara, that is the ones that have liberated, shed their material body. So that could be Linga Sharira. The ones that have shed all their Linga Shariras, that is all the liberated souls can also be called Akshara. Okay. Lakshmi is ever liberated. So she is also called Akshara. But she is a dependent ever liberated. Vishnu is the highest independent ever liberated entity. So in that highest sense, Vishnu is called Akshara. Okay. And then as Suresh ji mentioned, Aksha means what? Aksha means Indriyas. And that which is inside the Indriyas and Ramate enjoys this. Lakshmi and Vishnu. Vishnu again as an independent enjoyer. Okay. Abhimani Devatas of all the Indriyas are not Akshara. Why do we say that? Who is going to answer that question? Quick quiz there. Why are the Abhimani Devatas, for example, the eyes, Aksha, eyes you have Surya. Why is Surya not called Akshara then? Suresh ji. So folks like Surya are not called Akshara because they are still, they are Kshara Purushas. They are Ksharas. They have a material body, right? And they are inside doing their jobs under the control of Paramatma. Okay. So whereas Lakshmi and Vishnu, they don't have any material bodies at all. They are purely non-material. Okay. They are the only ones that can enjoy this. So have a think about this. Why Abhimani Devatas are not called Akshara. Then, of course, celebrated in Vedas.
Can I ask a question? They have material body means they have Linga Sharira.
So if you think about
no Stula Sharira. Yeah.
So if you think about from the creation aspects point of view, Shilaji, so you have the Mahat Tattva. So the Abhimani of Mahat Tattva is Chaturmukha. Then you have the Ahankara Tattva. The body
Rudra.
of Rudra is Ahankara Tattva. So these are all evolutes of matter. So they all have a material covering. However, it may not be as tightly binding as it is for us. Okay. Nevertheless, they still have a material covering. For example, Chaturmukha and Vayu, for example, they call Dagda Pataya Manavata. It is there, but it is also not. It's a covering, but it's not binding. Yeah. So all others have it. And of course, there are all these liberated souls who have gone. All these Abhimani Devatas in the previous creation who have been liberated. They have gone. They are called Aksharas, and they come in this number 3 category of A plus Kshara. Okay. Then, of course, I think Pratibhaji mentioned about Adhikam Ksharanti, fulfills all our wishes. Yeah, we may think all the other lower devatas fulfill all our wishes, but Krishna is very categorically described in Bhagavad Gita that although we may be under a Brahma that we think because we worship this particular devata, we are getting this. No, ultimately it is Vishnu or Krishna who is the bestower of all the things that we have asked for. Okay. So when you think about that, it opens up a lot of ideas about Akshara, and we should never hesitate to revise that. And think about this here. So when we look at this chapter 15 that Pragnesh was talking about, Kshara, Akshara. So here our Angirasa is actually giving a few other ideas here, and we should use this when we need to understand chapter 15, 16. We should not just understand it in that superficial sense, because as you know, Gita is the essence of Upanishads. So we should take that Akshara that comes in chapter 15, 16 with a reference to the Akshara that is being described in Mundaka Upanishad, for example. So here, Angirasa has previously said what? There is Kshara, there is Akshara, Mula Prakriti, then there is Aksharat Parataha. So this Lakshmi is higher than this Mula Prakriti. She is called Chetana Prakriti, Shri Tattva, Lakshmi, Kutasto Akshara. And then there is another guy, Aksharat Parataha Paraha, as described here. Divyo hi Aburtaha Purushaha Sabahya Bhi Antaro hi Ajaha Aprano hi Manaha. Shubro hi Aksharat Parataha Paraha. That Aksharat Parataha Paraha is this entity here. Yeah. So think about that idea about Akshara. So then what? So previously it was Aksharat Parataha Paraha. Here what? Tadetad Aksharam Brahma. He is Akshara Brahma. Okay. This may be Aksharat Parataha, whereas this chap, this big guy, is Aksharam Brahma. And we are all experts on this Brahma, isn't it? What is that Brahma? Ata kasmad uchyate brahmeti bruhanto hi asmin gunaha. That which is all pervasive in time, space, and attributes is Brahma, which is very well fits with Ashnute iti Aksharam. So the sequence of thought of Angirasa is very straightforward, provided we are able to capture the etymology of the words from this ancient text. Yeah. So then what does he say? This is interesting. Okay, this is a new idea for us for today's class. Tadetad Aksharam Brahma. And this guy who is your Antaryamin, Saha Pranaha. Tad u vang manaha. Tad u stresses stress. Tat u vang manaha. He is pranaha, he is vak, and he is manaha. So that is interesting. And I think Suresh Ji was mentioning about Sarva Shabda Vachyatva. Akara to Shakara, everything only denotes this Brahman. So when you take that view, it gives you an idea of Sarva Shabda Vachyatva, which is what Akshara also means, Brahman also means that. Saha Pranaha Tadu Vang Manaha. So this creates a little bit of confusion for us because we have done prana before. We know what vak is, what manaha is. Vak is speech, manas is thought, pranaha is breath. So we know that speech, breath, and mind, speech, and breath. We understand this. We also know their Abhimani Devatas. Vak could be Agni, it could be Saraswati, it could be Bharati, it could be Parvati. Manaha could be Garuda, Sesha, Rudra, Chandra, Brihaspati, etc., etc. So many of them are controllers of Manaha. Yeah, starting from Garuda, Sesha, Rudra. Pranaha, it could be, your Vayu Tattva. It could be Apana, Vyana, Udana, and all the other pranas, and their Abhimani Devatas, and so on. So it could be so many other connotations. But we should always think about something called Parama Mukhya Vritti. So when you look at the philosophy at the highest sense, Angirasa is reminding us, these guys have taken their name because it is their grandfather's name. the grandsire, the creator of the universe has got all these names. So these children have also got these names. Okay? Sarva Shabda Vachya. So Angirasa actually celebrates this Akshara himself as Pranaha, Vak and Manaha. So there we have to understand what is that Pranaha, Vak and Manaha from an etymological sense. So Raghavendra Tirtha gives a etymology there. Prakarshanena jagat prerayati iti pranaha. So that which, the prana means what? Prakrishta anat. So that which just an amazing activity. What is that amazing activity? Jagat prerayati not only creates the universe but also controls it and does all other things. The eightfold cosmic dispensations that we are very familiar with. So in the ultimate sense, prana means Akshara or Narayana, Krishna or Vishnu. Prakarshena jagat prerayati iti pranaha. What about Vak? Vakti samasta vedaniti. Okay, so this is beautiful. Brahman, when he says Om, and he is simultaneously reciting the whole of the Vedas instantly, at the same time, always. Yeah. Samasta vedaniti. Vakta samasta vedaniti. Yeah, and that is why in 15:15 he says, so who wants to take up the 15:15? It's a beautiful verse. So let's do 15:15, please. Suresh, go for it.
सर्वस्य चाहं हृदि सन्निविष्टः मत्तः स्मृतिर्ज्ञानमपोहनं च वेदैश्च सर्वैरहमेव वेद्यः वेदान्तकृत् वेदविदेव चाहम्.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you very much. So Vedashta sarvairahameva vedyaha. Bhakti samasta vedaniti. Vak. That vak is what is described here. Pranaha tat u vak. That is vak. Okay. And there is another interesting idea of vak. When Brahman is described as uttering the Vedas always, and also hearing and understand and knowing the Vedas simultaneously. Vedashta sarvam ahameva vedyaha. So what does that perception? Brahmanda Purana says, Yatasta harina drushtaha. So this is interesting. We all hear the Vedas, okay? Whereas Brahman is always seeing the Vedas. He doesn't hear, he sees. But we have to hear and then understand, whereas he is seeing the Vedas, everything simultaneously. So that's another interesting philosophical idea for us to ruminate on, okay? Pranaha, tadu, vak, manaha. Then what about manas or manaha? Manaha. Manute sarvamiti manaha. Manute mananashilaha, that which knows. Yes, sarvajnaha, sarvavid, yasya jnanamayam tapaha. Tasmad etad brahma nama rupam annam cha jayate. Mundaka Upanishad again. We don't have to go too far to understand what is that manaha. It is the same as sarvajnaha, omniscient. Okay. So that guy is pranaha, that guy is vak, that guy is manaha. Same ideas in Aitareya Upanishad. We have done this so many times. Tava, etaha, sarvaha, richaha, sarve vedaha, sarve goshaha, ekaiva vyahritihi, prana eva, prana richa iti eva vidyat. Okay. Prana. Okay. Here is a new idea for us. The word prana we understood, prakarshanena jagat prerayati iti pranaha. But our philosophy tells us there are various types of prana, guys. There is this mukhya prana, there is the madhyama prana, and there is adama prana. So that is the next level of understanding the scriptures. Okay. Adama pranaha. Let us think about adama pranaha means the lower pranas. So the lower pranas are like your apana, vyana, udana, and so on. Upapranas. And in Mundaka Upanishad, we spoke about Sapta Pranaha, right? So who is going to remind us what is that Sapta Pranaha that we did in first Kanda of second Mundaka? 7 pranas that were described. Anybody wants to answer that quick quiz? Sapta Pranaha Prabhavanti Tasmat. Sapta Archishaha. Anybody? So that prana is Indriyas. So even Indriyas are called pranas. Your sense organs are also called pranas. Then you have Yana, Udana, and all those things. Pranas, children are all come under that category. So that is called Adava prana. So in the technical parlance, The Vayu Tattva or the Prana Tattva that is celebrated in all the Upanishads is technically what is called as Madhyama Prana. Okay? But in mundane sense, for people like us, he is a Mukhya Prana. He is the highest for us. Yeah. But in the very highest form, when I say prana, that Mukhya Prana is Vishnu himself. Okay? So we should never forget about those ideas. When we talk about pranas, think about Vishnu, think about Vayu Tattva, think about all other pranas. And the highest one is this prana, according to Angirasa, who is talking about Brahma and Akshara. Tadetad Aksharam Brahma, Sapranaha, Tadu Vang Manaha. Next one is interesting for us. Tadetat Satyam. Again reminding us. Tadetat Satyam. Tat, ye tat. That fellow who is all pervasive, who is inside you, he is Satyam. And we are very familiar with Satyam. And I'll just go through these. Remind ourselves. All Upanishads. Okay. Any Upanishad that you take, there will not be an Upanishad without talking about Satya. Okay. That Satya means not real. That is one very superficial rendering. Satya means Narayana, Vishnu. Hiranmayena patreta satyasya abhihitam mukam tattvam pushan apavrudu satyadharmaya drishtaye. You may remember that verse in Isha Upanishad. Taittiriya Upanishad defines Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. This guy is Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Mundaka Upanishad, we are going to see this fairly quickly. Satyameva jayati na anrutam. Saya esho animna yetadatmem idam sarvam tat satyam sa atma tattvamasi shvetaketo chandogya Upanishad. Again Satyam. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam. Damna svena sada dirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi. Srimad Bhagavatam. Satyasya Satyam. Vishnu Sahasranama says Vishnu's name is Satya. Chandogya Upanishad, actually we have done this before, gives you a etymology of Satya. Tani hava etani 3D aksharani sat ti yam iti. Okay, this is the beauty of this. Sometimes folks forget all this and talk about Satya means real. No, Chandogya Upanishad has given a definition. It's got 3 words. Sat, Ti and Yam. Sat means liberated. Ti means unliberated. Yam means Yamayati, regulator of both. He who is the regulator of both, the liberated and the not liberated, is called Satyam according to Chandogya Upanishad. And according to Isha Upanishad, Sat Chit Ananda, which is a definition of Paramatma or Akshara, is what Sat, Ti and Yam is. Sat means Nirdushta. Ti means Tati. Tati means Ananda. Ya means Yati, to go, to know, Jnana. Satyam equals Sat Chit Anandam. Okay, so these are all. Satyam means Paramatma's name. Yeah. This is interesting, and again, of course, this Satya, we don't have time to go through this. The whole etymology of Satya, I've given it here, and we've also discussed before, which gives you the etymology of the eightfold cosmic dispensation. Therefore, this Brahman is called Janmadhyasya Yataha. So, in that sense, this Brahman is Satya because he is the creator of the universe and he is the embodiment of Satchitananda, but none of us are. Yeah. Raghavendra Tirtha gives another etymology of Satyam. Satyam aparadina swabhavam. Aparadina swabhavam. Paradina means dependent. Aparadina means swatantram, independent. Satyam means swatantram. There is only Swatantro Bhagavan Vishnuhu. There is only one independent entity according to all theistic schools of Vedanta. Okay. So when you look at that, Satyam has got all these meanings. Brahman alone is Swatantro Bhagavan Vishnu. Swatantram alone, Bhagavan Vishnu alone is Satyam. We are all Asatya in the sense we are none of this. Okay. That does not mean we are Asat. It does not mean that we are illusion. No. That is not the language of the Vedas. Some folks think that so, but no. Paramatma alone is Satya. We are all Asatya in the sense that we are not Swatantra. We don't create the universe. We don't control the universe. We are not infinitely Satchidananda. Okay, so we need to understand these ideas of Satya there. Then what is he says? Tad Amrutam. So this Satya, your Antaryamin, is Amrutam. Yeah, and again the Katha Upanishad says Nityo Nityanam. Amrutam is an easy word. Amrutam. Mrutam is that which dies. Amrutam is that which doesn't die. that which is eternal and immortal. Yeah, and of course, our Bhagavatam 2:10-12 gives all the entities that are eternals. Dravyam, karmascha, kalascha, swabhavo, jiva evacha, yad anugrahatah santi, nasanti, yadupekshaya. All these eternals are dependent on this independent eternal. That is why he is called Nityo Nityanam in Katha Upanishad. So all key ideas of Upanishads that we have done in other Upanishads and in other opportunities in the satsang, but beautifully Angirasa in just a 1.5 lines of few verses summarizes who this Antaryamin is. Tadetad aksharam brahma, sa pranaha, tadu vang manaha, tadetad satyam, tadamrutam. And then he says, Shuanaka, know that thing. Tad vedavyam somya viddhi. Know that Antaryamin. I know how many times Angirasa is stressing on Shuanaka is quite interesting. You can actually do that research in Mundaka Upanishad. They say, how many times is Angirasa reminding Shuanaka to say, know that Antaryamin, know that Antaryamin, know that Antaryamin. Okay. So he should be known is what? He's saying, Somya Viddhi. And he used the word Somya, and our gurus teaches that Somya is interesting because Somya means that person who has done Somayaga. And Shuanaka is the most qualified person because he's always doing Somayaga and consumes the Soma juice at the end. So he is called Somya. And he is also Sadhu Swabhava. So that is also called Somya. So he kind of adores his student and says Somya with the what? Tad Vedavyam. Know that thing. He should be known. Okay. So that is the key message of this verse, saying that there is this Antaryami. He is ever there. He wants to show himself to us, but we guys are so bothered by the external world of our careers and mortgages and whatever, that we are so focused on this that we don't have time to see him. This fellow is already inside you, waiting to show himself. We are not seeing him. And Angirasa says he has to be known. He has to be known. Know him like this. Know him that there is this great entity that is inside you and also outside you, controlling all this stuff. Know him, know him. Then the question is, how to know him? Okay. It is all well and good to say that know him, but how do we know him? Yeah. So there are two aspects of knowing. Yeah, this is the next level of philosophy that we need to move on. If I need to know Paramatma, if I need to know this entity called the Supreme Being or God or whatever you want to call it as, there are two aspects to this knowing, guys, is what Angirasa is telling us in the next verses. Okay? And he's going to give an illustration to show that point. There are two ways of knowing Paramatma. Something called Paroksha Jnana and something called Aparoksha Jnana. Okay? Those are all the two aspects of knowing. One will lead to the other. Paroksha Jnana will lead to Aparoksha Jnana. There is no other way. You cannot miss Paroksha Jnana and directly jump to Aparoksha Jnana. Some people will say, I will recite this something, whatever, so many 1,000 times in a day, and somehow I will reach moksha. Good luck to them. That is not the method of the Upanishads and the Vedas. If we are serious practitioners of Sanatana Dharma, there is a process, there is a vidhi that is given in the Vedas, and that vidhi is you start off with Paroksha Jnana and then go to Aparoksha Jnana rather than blindly recite something and hope that you will get God vision. It's not going to happen. So before we go into that, I just want to break for a minute and have a discussion around what is our understanding of what is Paroksha Jnana and what is Aparoksha Jnana. So please go for it and share your thoughts.
Moksha is to know through all the scriptures and all the rituals and everything is Paroksha Jnana, by understanding the scriptures. And Aparoksha Jnana is when, when you meditate and like what Dhruva saw, how you see the Lord, your own pratibim, you're able to see your own bimba within.
Thank you, Pratibhaji. Yeah, thank you, Pratibhaji. Wonderful. Suresh?
Maybe Paroksha Jnana is material knowledge, I mean, what we get to know through our senses. Aparoksha is beyond it, what we think is incomprehensible at this point of time. When we get to know that, which is beyond matter, that is perhaps is what Aparoksha Jnana. Sure.
Thank you, Suresh. Anybody else wants to share their ideas?
But even I think in the beginning, it was said that even Shastras and everything is Paroksha Jnana, isn't it? Whatever we are learning from Guru Mukha is Paroksha Jnana itself. But Aparoksha Jnana is when we realize what Guru has said and experience it ourselves. I thought that is Aparoksha Jnana.
Very nicely.
Please correct if, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very nicely put. Pragnesh ji?
In the chapter 7, there was a Jnana Vijnana Yoga, and we discussed what is the difference between Jnana and Vijnana. This is almost similar. Thank you.
Thank you, Pragnesh. So yeah, wonderful ideas there. So let's because he says Veditavyam, right? He says Yetat Satyam Tad Amrutam Tad Vedavyam Somya Viddhi. Know him. There are two stages to it, Paroksha Jnana and Aparoksha Jnana, and all of us kind of shared beautiful ideas there about what is Paroksha Jnana and Aparoksha Jnana. That is what our Angirasa is taking us next. Okay, so let's think about this verse, and this is of course a famous verse for us, isn't it? Atmavare drashtavyaha shrotavyo mantavyo nitidyasitavyaha maitreyi. So this Atma needs to be seen. And how can he be seen? Shrotavyo mantavyo nitidyasitavyo. Okay. So that Shrotavyo Mantavyo Nitidyasitavyaha, that Samadhi that ultimately go Nitidhyasi, the Dhyana, that Samadhi then becomes two aspects. One is Sampragnati Samadhi, material mental construct that Suresh was alluding to. The material mental constructs of how we think this Paramatma is using our material mind. And we just, maybe we focus on a photo of Paramatma or something and we think about that being. So that is a material mental constructs. It is not a true experience of God. Yeah, but it is a move in the right direction. So that is called Paroksha Jnana, material mental constructs. Some of the material mental constructs we get it from, as Sheilaji was mentioning, of all the scriptures that we study and how we manana of the scriptures that we study and how we think that this Paramatma is, and then we get into dhyana, and the first stage is that sampragnata sthiti. Okay. Then there is the other version that Yajnavalkya is telling Maitreyi here, that Atmavare drashtavyaha. You have to see that person, your Jiva Swabhava itself has to see the Antaryamin inside, as how Pratibha Ji was talking about, as your Bimba that you see, your Bimba Rupa Sakshatkara, as it's technically called. Bimba is your Antaryamin, and you see that being, which is unique to you. Okay. That is called Asampragnata Sthiti, where the mind stops functioning. The Jiva Swarupa starts functioning and seeing. What does it see? Atmavare drashtavya. That Jiva Swarupa seeing its Antaratma that is inside him is the next step. That is called Aparoksha Jnana, which is the direct experience of God. Okay. So Paroksha Jnana means indirect knowledge, whereas Aparoksha Jnana means direct knowledge of the Jiva experiencing its Antaryami. Yeah, and this is the idea of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad that can be split into two ideas, right? Sampragnata Sthiti and Asampragnata Sthiti. The same thing happened in Katha Upanishad also, if you remember. Atmanam Ratinam Viddhi, Shariram Ratamevatu, Buddhim tu Saratim Viddhi, Manaha Pragraham Yevacha, Indriyani Hayanahu, Vishayanteshu Gocharan, Atma Indriya Manoyuktam Bhokte Riti Ahur Manishinaha. So this body is like a chariot. We have understood all that. And the chariot can take two routes, right? It can go towards material objects. That fellow is doomed. Or we can still use this, we can use this chariot and go towards Shreyas. The Shreyas has got two aspects, okay? That is another level when you pick up Sampragnata, Asampragnati. So if you do Shreyas, you use this body and Indriyas and you read the scriptures. And you understand that Paramatma is like this and like this. And what happens? Atma Indriya Manoyuktam. So you're using Atma and your Indriyas, mind and the senses. And then you're approaching the scriptures and you're understanding some knowledge of God, Paroksha Jnana. After that, what happens? Atma Indriya Manoyuktam. The same Atma Vareyara Drashtavya. Second stage of Aparoksha Jnana, where this Atma itself then sees the Antaratma. Harish.
I just wanted to clarify. So there's no form and name in the Asampragnata Sthiti, or does that construct appear in both?
So, sorry, name, form, Harish, in what context?
No, meaning that when you say that you don't, it's not a true experience of God. Is there when there is a true experience of God, is there a name and form associated in that as well?
Yeah,
It is.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so in the Paroksha Jnana, we make a mental construct, right? But in the Aparoksha, when your Jiva Swarupa itself opens up, so there, I just want to remind you of the Rigveda mantra as well as in Katha Upanishad, where it says, Rupam Rupam Prati Rupo Babuvaha Tadasya Rupam Prati Chakshanaya. Okay, that Rigveda mantra is supremely important, where it says, in that Aparoksha Jnana Sthiti, Rupam Rupam Prati. Okay, so there is a form of that Antaryamin that is unique to each Jiva. Yeah, and that form of the Paramatma is unique to each Jiva based on the Jiva's capacity. Jivas have very limited capacity to see this amazing entity. Okay, so based on individual Jiva's capacity, there is a Bimba Rupa that is available for that Jiva to appreciate and gain the knowledge of that. And of course, our Shastras talk about how that Bimba Rupa will be, in what form it is going to be. That is individual. You will have to taste it out to experience it. But the view there is, at that point, Prana Tattva brings this Bimba Rupa in its four forms of Shanku, Chakra, Gada, and Padma, and there is a version of it that the Shastras talk about, Harish. So, but yes, there is a form that is unique to each Jivas. Yeah, that we see is the view there. So, Atma Indriya Manoyuktam. So, think about Paroksha Jnana and Aparoksha Jnana. Okay, so why are we talking this? Let's see if over the next 10 minutes we can at least touch some aspects of this Paroksha Jnana and Aparoksha Jnana. So the Paroksha Jnana, so previously our Angirasa said, you should Veditavyam. You have to Vedhavyam Somya Vidhi. Vedhavyam Somya Vidhi, he said. You have to know him. Compulsory. There is no other way around this. Okay. So this Paroksha Jnana eventually leads to Aparoksha Jnana. Yeah, so we cannot just stop at this level. We have to go beyond Paroksha Jnana, and that is the journey of souls, right? What are we doing in this satsang? We are doing efforts to get Paroksha Jnana. We are not getting Aparoksha Jnana. Aparoksha Jnana is your individual effort and prayatna. Yeah. Whereas Paroksha Jnana is, at least we need to start somewhere, right? We need to get the base. We need to get the foundation right. We need to, go in the right direction. That is to obtain the Paroksha Jnana. But that is not easy. So nobody says it's easy. Now, we've been doing this for 5 years. We're still nowhere. And there are people who have been doing this for births after births. And still they may be somewhere, but still probably nowhere. So there's so much work to be done, even to get Paroksha Jnana. Okay? What to say about Aparoksha Jnana? It is not easy. It is a battle. It is a struggle. Okay. So, we got to accept this. We have to face up to the fact that getting Paroksha Jnana and Aparoksha Jnana is a lot of hard work. Okay. That hard work, you can call it as a battle or a struggle, if you want to like that. But Angirasa is taking us in that direction. The verses that he is using next is telling us, look, mate, this dhyana that you're doing and, Shravana, Manana, and dhyana that you're doing, it is a dhyana yuddha. It is a fight. You have to fight. You have to fight to capture this Antaryamin. You have to fight to know and capture this Antaryamin is what Angirasa is telling Shuanaka, dhyana yuddha. How is this dhyana yuddha done? And for this, Angirasa takes one of the most beautiful metaphors of the Upanishads. He takes the bow and arrow metaphor to describe this. So what we will do today is at least try and dwell on the Paroksha, not Aparoksha, but Paroksha Jnana of this metaphor. What is that bow and the arrow metaphor that Angirasa is talking about? There is Olympics going on. There is archery that is going on. I don't know how the Indians are doing at this point, but I think the women's team is pretty good. But when you do watch that archery thing, think about this beautiful, beautiful verse. Danur gruhitva aupanishadam mahastram sharam hi upasa nishitam sandadita. Ayamya tadbhava gatena chetasa lakshyam Tadeva aksharam somya viddhi. He says, you got to have this battle. It is not easy. You have to fight. Okay? And how are you going to do this fight? How are you going to do this fight? Dhanur grihitva. Says, take a bow. Dhanur grihitva. Dhanuhu means what? Bow. Okay? What is that bow? This is so beautiful from Angirasa. Upanishadam. Take the Upanishads. They are the bow. Okay? Dhanur gruhitva. Grab the bow. That bow which is called the Upanishads. Upanishadam. This is the Mahastram. I'll come to Mahastram a little bit later. Mahastram. Sharam. What is the Sharam? Sharam means what? Shara means arrow. Place this arrow on this bow. Okay. Dhanur grihitva. Take the Upanishad, which is the bow. And in that bow, place this arrow. What is this arrow? This arrow is your mind. The mind is the arrow. Okay. Sharpen the mind. Sharam hi upasa nishitam. Nishita means what? Sharpen, a sharp arrow. How have you sharpened this arrow? Upasa. Shravana, manana, dhyana. With that, you have sharpened this mind. Sharam hi upasa nishitam sandadita. Ayamya. This is so beautiful. The metaphor. He says, how do you actually fire or send this arrow? You have the mind that is very sharpened, but how is that mind sharpened? He says, Ayamya. So how do we place the arrow in the bow? We place the arrow on this string, right? And then we pull this to our ears. We pull the arrows to our ears, and so that it gives the pace. Okay. Look at our Upanishad, look at our Rishi's metaphor there. That mind is next to the ear. Why? Because ear is where you hear the Vedas, the Upanishads, Shruti, right? You hear, constantly hear through your ears, goes to your Indriyas. Do Shravana, Manana, Dhyana. With that, sharpen this arrow. And once you have sharpened this arrow, Tad bhava gatena chetasa. Chetasa, mind. Bhava gatena. Bhava means with devotion. Okay. Mere knowledge is not liberating. Some folks think knowledge alone is liberating. 100% wrong. Tad bhava gatena chetasa. Bhava means devotion, bhakti. Without bhakti, there is nothing. Katha Upanishad has clearly said. Yeah. Yam yevesha vrunute tena labhyaha. God chooses as to whom he will show himself. And that choosing comes only when we offer our devotion. That is what here our Angirasa is saying. Tad bhavagatena chetasa. And what is your target? Laksham, tad eva aksharam. Somya viddhi. That is your target. So you take this bow called the Upanishads. You pull the arrow to your ears, i.e. listen to Shravana is the first step. Shravana, Manana and Dhyana. Then you release with that Shravana and Manana and Dhyana, this bow, which is the mind, has become very sharpened. So that sharp bow, release it. Release it to whom? What is your target? Lakshyam tadeva aksharam. So this is the metaphor that Angirasa is saying, that this is the Dhyana Yuddha. This Dhyana Yuddha that we have to do has got various components. Upanishads. By Upanishads, what do we mean? Vedas. That is the only way. Samyevam Vidwan. He can be known only through this. Vedas is the only way for us to use this Dhanu and focus our mind through Shravana and then develop Bhava and then hit the target, which is called Aksharam. Okay. So the various components of this is incredible. So the Angirasa's metaphor here actually gives us various levels of contemplation that we have. Why did he say Dhanur Grihitva Upanishadam? Why did he say this? Why did he say that? Everything. Why Mahastram? What is Vaishnava? What is Vaishnava Astra? What is Brahmastra? What is Agni Astra? What is Surya Astra that we see in all the Puranas? What is Vaishnava Astra? There is Mahastram, Mahabhutam, Eko Vishnuhu, Mahatbhutam, as it's celebrated. That Vishnu, Vaishnava Astra that he's talking about. How do we do this? Why do we say Upanishadam and so on? I think we will deal with this in all its glory in the subsequent classes. Yeah. So Dhanir Gruhitva Upanishadam Mahastram Sharam hi Upasa Nishitam Sandadita. Ayam yatadbhavagatena chetasa lakshyam tadeva aksharam somya viddhi. So this one, and Pranavo Dhanuhu is the next verse. That is even incredible. Okay. Asks you to go to the next level. Forget about Upanishadam as the Dhanu. Pranavo Dhanuhu. Sharam hi Atma. That is the next verse. He says you have to go through these various levels of Paroksha Jnana and Aparoksha Jnana and then head towards your salvation. Okay, is what Angirasa is going to teach us. So stay with us for the next, I don't know how many months it's going to take to do all this, but these are all some of the most profound philosophies of the Upanishads that needs to be celebrated by talking about this as much as we can. And that is what we are doing in these satsangs. So on that note, I will close today's session. There are lots of slides, as you can see. Krishna Pranamastu. And if there are any questions, we can take it up now. There's some ideas in chat, self-realization and God realization. Thank you, Anandji and Srikanji. Thank you. Any questions? Cool. So there doesn't look like we got any questions, but my request here is please do think about the Dhanur Grihitva, archery, and how to bring that philosophy of Paroksha Jnana and Aparoksha Jnana. Please go back to these verses and start thinking about Khanda 1 and Khanda 2 in great detail, because Angirasa is very clear. He said, this is the only way. Yeah. Upanishadam. Veda Adhyayana, learning through the Vedas, understanding is the first step, and it is the only step. There is no other step, is what Angirasa is saying. So let's make those slow onward journey over the next few months. So we'll close today's session, but I just wanted to make a couple of announcements, please. So August is upon us from next week. And as you know, every year we do break off for 4 weeks in August, because many of our satsangis do a lot of travel in August. Certainly in the UK, many of us do traveling in August and usually take time out in August. So many of us are doing that, traveling. So I do hope that you all have an excellent holiday for the next 4 weeks. So we are going to break off from Upanishad Chintana for the next 4 weeks. Okay, so the next class will start from 1st of September, where we will catch up where Angirasa is left with the Dhanur Grihitva. So I want to pick up from Dhanur Grihitva and make slow progress on the Upanishads from 1st of September. Okay, so that is the first announcement. The second announcement is on the 11th of August, there is the big Manchester Gita webinar that Hindu Knowledge Academy is doing. Many of our satsangis are all contributing in an amazing way for that Gita webinar, which is happening on a Saturday, and that is for 2 hours. Okay, and it's going to be amazing, I think, with various favorite topics of this satsang. Okay. Why is Gita the essence of the Upanishad? What is the significance of number 18? Yeah, and those kind of questions that we are presenting to the wider audience, I believe across the globe. So that will be a very interesting webinar that Hindu Knowledge Academy is hosting in about exactly 2 weeks' time. So that will be mid-August. So we will all be looking forward to seeing all of us from the satsang into that forum. There is a Q&A session, interactive session, and then finally finish off by Jnananji Maharaj from Kurukshetra. And he's visiting here in the UK, and he is a stalwart and an expert on Gita. So we'll be looking forward to his summary of our workshop at the end of it. So it's going to be an interesting session. So that was the other one. Then we have our Gita Chintana that will probably happen on the 8th of September. So that's work in progress of finalizing the date. So we will get back to you on that particular date fairly soon, I think. So those are my announcements. If there are anything else, Anand, if you're in call, if you have anything that you want to share about the Gita, go for Manchester Gita function, go for it. Are you there, Anand? Okay, so Anand probably is not around. So maybe we will send those messages through the Sahiti group. Okay, so on that note, may I request Harish to take us through Om, please, and we close today's session. Thank you, Harish. Excellent Chintana today, and have a wonderful August with your family, friends, traveling, whatever that you might be doing. We'll catch up from 1st of September. Hare Krishna. Take care.
Thank you, Shubhra.